Well, folks, welcome to 3 Wide TV. I went through a whole bunch of stuff, and the mics were cold. Isn't that wonderful? Welcome to race number 1. It is the Craig's Clash here at iRacing Series 3. What a great way to start off the season, I gotta say, Drew. 45 laps, our mics are muted. You probably won't get a better point all season long of getting to listen to the race cars. Not us up here in the booth commentating here in the Stay Tuned Sports Truck Series. You know, I don't even know why they pay us up here in the booth. But you know what, Drew? 45 laps here tonight. iRacing Superspeedway. No tapered spacers. No restrictor plates. None of that garbage. Just high-speed race cars tonight.
Yeah, in one of the most unconventional ovals in iRacing, right? I mean, the only kind of fictional track that we really have, other than maybe, I guess, the Monza oval's the only thing that could really come close to what we experience here at iRacing Superspeedway. No restrictor plates. These trucks are going to be doing close to right around 230 miles an hour. And it's going to be interesting to see if these guys can make multiple grooves work. It can be such a difficult challenge here, but there's nothing to lose and everything to gain, right? Not a points event. And, it's kind of glory or go home.
That is right. And here we are in the practice session. We did have the qualifying race a little bit earlier ago, and of course this race actually had tonight just one spot for drivers to make it into the show, but that was expanded just a little bit. This race is comprised of the pole award winners from last year, and of course we'll get to the pole award here in just a minute. We got a new sponsor on the pole award here in the 2021A Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. But Drew, tell us about how that prelim race just went.
Yeah, it was just kind of hanging out. Decided, hey, let's check out the open, and chaos would be the one word to describe it. What I really noticed is, and this is something I've experienced, and I think a lot of people when they come here, it's really, really hard if you're the truck on the bottom to keep it down on the bottom and not kind of go up the track into the car next to you. And that's basically most of the chaos that we saw was guys racing too hard, just like that, and pushing up into each other. And that was the primary cause. That was only 10 laps, right? So a very short sample size. About half of that was actually green flag laps. But it was actually a bigger field than what we have here for the Open. So, here we go, Peter. We're gridding them up and getting ready to go green.
Yeah, and of course, no real qualifying here in this race here tonight. It's a random draw for who's starting on pole. In fact, you can see that starting lineup there on the left-hand side of your screen, because it will be Jason Freeman who will be leading us to the green flag here in the unofficial start to the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series here in the Craig's Clash here at the iRacing Superspeedway. I want to thank each and every one of you joining us in the chat. We got Steven Doziak saying the LCQ was nuts. Almond Leader 425 saying good luck tonight, drivers. The Open was fun. And King Crop Vods as well. Well, folks, we'll leave the starting lineup there for you on the left-hand side of the screen as the trucks start to roll. But, Drew, hopefully we don't see that kind of chaos here in this race. However, they do have one fast repair on these trucks tonight.
Yeah, and I think that's probably what contributed to some the aggressive approach that a lot of guys took in the Open, especially in the Open, right? I mean, you got to get yourself up there. It's only 10 laps. You have to be aggressive. You have that fast repair. So I think that was probably a big factor into why those guys kind of, drove so aggressively. But here, a little bit smaller field, much longer race, 45 laps. But still that one fast repair. I'm expecting these guys to get up there and mix it up pretty early.
Yeah, definitely going to be interesting to see how much they can push each other to the front. Of course, iRacing recently changed the way that these cars drive on these large racetracks, kind of altering the draft characteristics. So we've seen drivers struggle to get side-by-side and race side-by-side, but these trucks push and punch a bigger hole in the air. So we're expecting to see a little bit more raciness out of these trucks than what we see with the Cup cars, which are just a little bit more slippery down the straightaway. Don't punch as big of a wake in the air as these trucks do. So it should be a good one. Stay Tuned Sports in the chat saying, let's go, boys. Have a good race. Big shout out to Stay Tuned Sports for jumping on board and sponsoring the Stay Tuned Sports podcast truck series. There's a link in the description to go check out their podcast. Make sure you do it. But Drew, we're about to unofficially go green here on the season.
Jason Freeman taking the green flag, leading the field to the green. That 20 and the 49 of Mitchell Adams, of course, last year's champion, 2 times back-to-back champion in that 49 truck. Very even start. And can these guys on the outside maintain this? It's going to be such a big challenge. Unlike Daytona and Talladega, where the corners kind of open up on exit, let that high side carry some momentum, here at iRacing Superspeedway, it doesn't quite work as well on that high lane, but they're keeping even thus far a little bit more organized on that outside lane. And it looks like Mitchell Adams and Drew Himmelman are going to make the move, take the lead from that 20 truck. And are they going to go high, go low? It's kind of a hard call to make here at iRacing Superspeedway, though. 3 wide going into 3. You see those trucks wobble around a little bit on entry because it's so difficult. And Doug Neal around, and that's going to be a big one. And many fast repairs are going to have to be used.
And just like that, we will go to caution here at iRacing Superspeedway. We didn't even make it 1 lap. Let's see if we can go back just a little bit and figure out what all went down with these cars right here. Bring that up there on your screen. There's the contact. And oh man, the 77 Doug Neal, new look on that Simbox machine, and already going around. We got 1 car in the back of the pack. Was that Doug Milliner back there? No, there is Doug Milliner. Milliner was way back. That was Steven Doziak in the number 55 machine. Kind of got the Miami vibes, but has South Carolina on the side of that race car. So definitely a lot of race cars here that are going to be beaten up early on in this one. You absolutely hate to see it here tonight.
By my estimations, about 5 trucks are going to have to use their fast repair in that. And basically, I think what we saw there is when you're moving this quickly, and especially in these really banked corners, a little input will really change the attitude of that truck. And I think that's what Izinga, basically experienced. I think he just was trying to, he was cutting down a little bit more than he wanted to, and he adjusted. And when he did, he just went up the track a little too much into that 77 truck. And quite frankly, for most of the guys around them, just nowhere to go, right? These trucks don't have great brake packages here on these super speedways. And it's just hard when you're moving that fast to really predict where trucks are going to go and avoid them.
Yeah, so we did see the number 55 machine of Steven Doziak coming back out there onto the racetrack. He has used one of those fast repairs here tonight. So we will see whether or not anyone else out there will use one of those fast repairs. But up at the front of the field, it is Mitchell Adams. He was actually able to get around for the race lead, got around the number 20 machine of Jason Freeman, but we got some takers on pit road back there here, Drew. We got Doug Milliner. Looks like he's missed his pit stall. There's the number 11 machine. New look for Chris Darling this year. A new manufacturer, Drew. I know that's one thing that you mentioned there prior to the race. A lot of good-looking new trucks out there.
Yeah, a bunch of different schemes. And, from what was a very Chevy, Toyota dominant series last year, a few more Fords out there, a little more diversity. But Chris Darling with a new number, Drew Himmelman with a new number at season debut. He changed his number mid-season last season. Mitchell Adams with a brand new look to that truck, as does Bill Edwards and Ben Izinga. Doug Neal, obviously, with a drastically different looking truck. But great new schemes out there. MaxGrafix, a big part of this league, and they put out some fantastic stuff. And it's a really good looking field.
Yeah, it is definitely a good-looking field. Now, folks, Doug Neal in the number 78 machine, he's actually going to be scored a couple laps down. Number 77 machine, excuse me. He's going to be scored a couple laps down, unfortunately, at this present moment in time. Looks like he's going to be scored 2 laps down. Chris Darling and Justin White still sitting in their pit box. There goes Chris Darling. I think, Drew, he tried to get that damage fixed the old-fashioned way, not use that fast repair. You can see that front end a little bit banged up there on the MaxGrafix.co Ford F-150. Going to be a little bit difficult to say Chris Darling's driving a Ford here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series, but he's working his way back out onto the racetrack. Of course, he was in a Toyota last season, but now making the switch over to that F-150.
Yeah, great scheme on that 11. It's going to be interesting to see. I like that call by the 11, right? By Chris Darling, to see if he can get away with not using that fast repair, right? There is only one in, several guys, Ben Izinga, I believe the 55, maybe a couple others out there were basically forced to use their fast repair. I like this move by Chris Darling. I doubt this is the last caution that we see here at iRacing Superspeedway. So if you can get away with it, it's a good move, but this could really cost him multiple laps if they go green, because I think that 11 is going to struggle to maintain the pace that the field will be running at.
And there you see the number 49 machine of Mitchell Adams, your reigning champion here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. That number 49 machine taking home that championship last year in the chase that we had, Drew. And really, that number 49 was a driver to watch throughout the season, but really, really found his stride there during the chase and walking home with his second consecutive championship, easy for me to say, looking for number 3 this season.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the old Jimmy Johnson, like late 2000s runs where Jimmy would be good in the regular season, but just in the regular season found in a whole other gear, so to speak. And that's what we saw from Mitchell Adams. You just saw him get a little bit better. So a fantastic job by him last season. Jordan Shepler in a similar looking 13 scheme to what he had that last season. Jason Freeman, rather, also repping a pretty similar scheme to last year. But Mitchell Adams, interesting, taking the high lane on this restart. We'll see if that works out from him, as Drew Himmelman will start right next to him. And here we go, the 49, a great launch off the line. He will definitely be able to cut down low if he so chooses, but is he going to try to drag that 13 with him? I doubt it. There he goes, cutting that truck back down low in front of the 8 of Drew Himmelman. And it's going to be interesting. This track can, if the drivers kind of choose for it to be so, can be a difficult track to pass on, right? If a guy figures out that low line is really working and guys aren't really going to keep pushing that high lane, this track can definitely lend itself towards kind of what we're seeing right now out of the 49 from basically a low line fest. We'll see if that's able to continue, because we're seeing quite a few gaps between these trucks, which typically means some big runs. So we'll see how long these guys are satisfied running single file.
Yeah, so the number 49, Mitchell Adams, currently your race leader. Andrew Himmelman there sitting in second. Jason Freeman in third. Jordan Shepler and Chris Darling with the damage on that number 11 machine. So far, looking like it isn't affecting that number 11 all too much, as he is currently back up inside the top 5. You see that outside line start to try and form up out there, but they're not quite able to get a run. That's Stan Hausman back there, the Hausman family racing number 39 machine, Tropical Smoothie Cafe. 39, also Brookstone Animal Hospital will be on that truck, I'm sure, at some point. Big shout out to Brookstone Animal Hospital. They are sponsoring the Lucky Dog Award this season. Doug Neal, I think actually Neal was able to get one of his laps back, so might be kind of an unofficial recipient there of the Brookstone Animal Hospital under that first caution, the Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award, I should say. But up at the front, it is still the number 49 machine, just waiting for someone to jump out here, Drew, to see if they can get that outside line working.
It's going to be difficult, but you brought up Chris Darling with that front end damage. This is exactly where he wants to be. That 11 needs to be in the middle of this pack, where he's got a guy behind him pushing him, and then he's getting that draft off that truck in front of him. I think that 11 would really struggle if he's in the position of being the last car in a pack. Like we're seeing the 39 struggle back there in that bright green and white truck. That the very edge of the screen just went off screen. He's struggling to keep up because it's so difficult if you're that last truck and you don't have somebody pushing you along. It's really, really hard to keep up when they're running with no restrictor plates. And we're seeing that with the 39. With a perfectly clean truck, as he used his fast repair. We'll see if this 39 can get back up there with those other drivers. The 13 is now going to be susceptible to that. The 6, I wouldn't be surprised if we see the tail end of the main pack. You know, we see those guys kind of fall out one by one. If they just get about half a second behind the truck in front of them, it's going to be difficult for them to keep up.
Yeah, and of course, one of those trucks that we'll be keeping an eye on here tonight, Drew, is the number 50 of Bill Edwards. And the reason why is he was able to win that open race earlier. But he's currently being scored, down in the 8th position. Not being able to make much of a run on the trucks in front of him. So far not exactly having the start that he wanted. We go on board with him here, looking at the back of Ben Izenga, who was another one of those drivers to transfer in here tonight into the big show, the Craig's Setup Shop Clash here. Big shout out to Craig's Setup Shop. Not only are they sponsoring tonight's race, but they're also going to be sponsoring the Pole Award all season long. We've got a fancy new graphic for that one as well. So going to be cool to see Craig's Setup Shop all season long, each and every race, picking up that pole position award, but also sponsoring tonight's race right here on 3Wide TV. Link in the description to Craig's Setup Shop. A great place to pick up all of your iRacing setups for whatever track it might be that you're interested in. Meanwhile, we're starting to get a little bit racy up towards the front. Here comes Chris Darling here. Drew has that front end damage, but he isn't afraid to jump out there with Doug Neal.
Yeah, an interesting move and an interesting choice by that 11. Here comes the 20 of Jason Freeman in front of that 11 truck. We'll see if he can get that going. That's kind of a big blessing there for that 55 truck. Kind of gifted him 4 or 5 positions if this high lane doesn't work out, as Doug Milner way up the track in that number 6 truck. That's not where you want to be. All sorts of marbles up there. And I saw in practice that when guys got up there, sometimes that truck would tend to loop around on them because of the marbles up there. But this high lane, respectable at this point. They haven't kind of fallen off completely as I was expecting, but they are now clear of that last truck on the inside lane. And what we're seeing, Peter, is I think it's going to be really difficult with an even number of trucks on the outside and the inside lanes. It's going to be difficult for that outside lane to really be viable. I think you're going to have probably, another third as many trucks on the high lane than on the bottom for that high lane to really come in.
Yeah, we did see yesterday in the Taz Racing Customs Superspeedway series right here on 3Wide TV here in the National Sim Racing Association that if you had a couple of extra trucks or vehicles up there, you were able to make the pass, but it really took quite a bit. There's the number 2 machine of Justin White. Now he just fell 1 lap down. I think he's actually kind of doing what Chris Darling did there, Drew. Tried to see how the let's not use that fast repair, let's wait to use it type strategy, but it's not working out for him at all. It's working out quite well for Chris Darling because he's currently in the 5th position, but unfortunately for Justin White, he's going to find himself a lap down.
Quite a bit more damage on that too than what we're seeing on the 11, and he is substantially down. The main pack was running at 220 miles an hour. Justin White running at less than 200 miles an hour, at about 190 when the pack caught him. So that's a substantial closing rate, and luckily, and not just luck, but a good job by the field, able to navigate that closing rate and not cause an incident. Luckily, iRacing Superspeedway is really wide. But what's I think kind of odd about it being so wide is it almost plays into that bottom lane because it doesn't keep that bottom lane really tight on exit because it's so wide. They can just kind of go out there with plenty of room. And so I think I think this track would be a little better if it were about 2/3 as wide. What do you think, Pete?
This is one of those racetracks where you don't end up using a lot of the racetrack. You don't end up using that top side of the racetrack at all. I mean, you might if you're avoiding an accident or something like that, but drivers tend to stay very close to that yellow line. But one thing about this racetrack is it looks like Justin White there peeling back up onto the racetrack. He'll be scored 2 laps down now, is the fact that you kind of bottom out. Let's see if we can go on board with your race leader here of Mitchell Adams, your reigning series champion here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. Sometimes you can get the truck or even car to wash up either into the corner or coming out of the corner. And that's really where you're going to see drivers try to make a move. We're also going to see some drivers try and slice their way to the inside on the front stretch, try and maybe kind of pull the old 1-2, pull high out of the corner, see if the leader's going to drift up and see if you can cut down underneath him if he decides to throw a block on you. So we'll see if we see that here tonight. That's just kind of these drivers. Really, they're going to have to try something to try and usurp the number 49 machine from the race lead of Mitchell Adams, so far leading every single laps. But it's probably not all too far in the near future, though, that some of these drivers will start to come down pit road.
Yeah, absolutely. This obviously running at 230 miles an hour with you're not letting off the throttle at all. And these guys are running 70% fuel here. it's not going to be a long time for these guys as far as runs are concerned. And yeah, we'll see. Most of these drivers have not pitted. If they weren't really involved in that wreck, they didn't pit. So Mitchell Adams, Drew Himmelman, Jason Freeman, and then Doug Milner and Jordan Schepler, I have not made a pit stop yet. And even the guys that have, it was only a few laps, right? That was the first lap of the race where there was a caution. So even if you pitted, you don't have much more fuel than the guys around you. This is a fairly straightforward pit road entry. It's just you're going so fast that it's really easy to misjudge it and get in there a little too deep.
Yeah, that is for sure. So, in fact, last night in the Taz Racing Customs Superspeedway series here in the National Sim Racing Association, we saw drivers really struggle getting to pit road, Drew. Drivers locking up the rear brakes, getting cars sideways. We saw a little bit of net code with a little bit of contact coming down pit road as well. It's not an easy pit road to get onto, and the reason for that is the fact that you're going so fast here. We'll bring up the graphic down there in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, 223 miles an hour right now for your race leader, Mitchell Adams. I mean, that is absolutely booking it here around this 3-mile racetrack. You see going off into turn number 3 there, the 20 of Jason Freeman might have just clipped the apron just a smidgen. Same thing with the number 62 of Ullery. And one thing we know from that Taz Racing Customs Super Speedway series is Colin Ullery in that 62. He knows how to get the job done here on these Super Speedways. He is always finishing up near the front of the field in that series.
Yeah, I ran quite a few races of that Super Speedway series. And yeah, Colin Ullery was one of those guys constantly up there winning several races, really quick, really good at these types of tracks. And you know, it says Super Speedway. I think people think that it's kind of similar to Daytona and Talladega. I think this thing drives totally different than basically the other two Super Speedways that we have. One thing I noticed running here is that you really have to run a fairly low steering box ratio, which means you need that truck to kind of respond to that steering input more aggressively than you would want it at a Daytona or Talladega. Typically, you kind of max those out, so you're putting in as little wheel as possible to not slow the car or the truck down as much as if you ran a lower steering ratio. But here, the entries are so abrupt, and you talked about that huge load that these trucks feel in the middle of these corners because of these really high banked corners, that you really got to have a very aggressive kind of throw the wheel into the corner to keep that thing low. And when you see guys fade up a little bit, that's because they just didn't quite time that really aggressive input correctly, and you just kind of fade up and sometimes into the guy on top of you. But it's one of those more unique challenges. I tried to run a 16-to-1 ratio here, and I probably wrecked 2 or 3 guys just because I couldn't get the wheel in there enough, and it can be really challenging to keep that bottom sometimes.
Yeah, that's for sure. We were riding on board here with Ben Izenga, a very, very smooth driver, especially in the B-class cars. And here we go, jumping out of turn number 2 again. And kind of hard to figure out what end of the racetrack you're on sometimes here at iRacing Super Speedway, because it is a very symmetrical racetrack. There's grandstands on the front stretch. There are grandstands all the way down the back stretch. So it can be disorienting both as a driver but also as a commentator up here in the 3-wide TV booth. I had a couple of instances last night where, whoa, look at that, driver's headed down pit road, and here comes the madness here, Drew. This is what we talked about, that sometimes the madness here getting down pit road. Let's see if we can possibly dial up a quick replay and see these drivers come down onto pit road. We'll slow it down, put it in slow motion, but look at those trucks jostle. They're coming off the corner. 3 wide getting to pit road. Look at Adams on the brakes. Look at Freeman on the brakes. Man, that was tight. Everyone able to get everything slowed up in time. That's actually where the kind of the 3 lanes started. That's actually where the pit lane begins here at this racetrack. But looks like we got cars now peeling off pit road. Looks like this was a bad cycle for the number 49 of Mitchell Adams. He's going to drop a little bit further back in the pack. Not sure if he missed his pit stall or anything, but that's not good there for the 49 machine.
Yep, the 49, not a great pit stop. The 55 struggled as well. So a little bit, I mean, this is a huge variable when it comes to these tracks. You can really lose these races coming on and off pit road. But Chris Darling, not an ideal exit for him. And that 11 truck, he actually used his fast repair, and he has a clean truck, but not a clean exit out of pit road. As now we'll cue that replay up for you as he's running a little high. And then what happens? I think, he got on that transition to the main part of the track, the high banks of the corners, and that just de-wedges that car and makes it really oversteer. A great job by that 11 to get it under control. But now coming down pit lane once again is Chris Darling. I wonder if that's a speeding penalty, Peter.
I think that's a commitment, or not commitment line violation, but a merge line violation. You have to stay on the apron until you hit the blue cone, and I think he just got up there onto the racing surface with 2 wheels before he actually got to that blue cone. So I believe that's the reason for the black flag. Here again, Chris Darling shooting himself in the foot on pit road. We had hoped that maybe all of those things had cleared up over the offseason here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series, but doesn't look like it. Here again, struggling tonight in the Craig's Setup Shop Clash. Looks like we got a couple of other cars headed down pit road, including the number 39 machine. That's Stan Hausman and Doug Neal in the 77. Now remember, Doug Neal's 1 lap down in that Simbox Chevrolet, but looks like these two getting down to pit road speed nice and neatly. But where is Ben Izenga? There is Ben, running with his S2R teammate, Bill Edwards, right back behind him. And then that pack that you see back behind them, led by Colin Ullery, well, that is actually the 4th placed driver right now. But the bad news for Colin Ullery is he's currently being scored 1 lap down. But here comes Himmelman, Adams, the 20, Freeman, and also Doug Milliner in that group of trucks. And Drew, this might be the first time we can see a couple trucks get together on that high line to try and get around some cars, but they're currently 1 lap down as Izenga and the 50, the 07 and the 50 coming down on to pit lane. So this will pretty much cycle things through as we reach the halfway mark here in the Craig Setup Shop Clash. Big shout out to Craig's Setup Shop for sponsoring tonight's race. And now make sure you folks go check them out because they are definitely a really, really cool site if you want to pick up some of those iRacing setups. And great to have them on board here, not only tonight, but all season long as the Pole Award sponsor. But we got cars on pit road, the number 50 and the 07. We'll see how things cycle out with Andrew Himmelman in the number 8 machine, currently leading here, Drew. And he's won at this very racetrack here on 3 Wide TV before, so he knows how to get around this racetrack as we enter the second half of the race.
Once these guys kind of got that single file rhythm, that long green run, these guys have been keeping it very cordial out there. It'll be interesting to see how that 07 and 50 merge back into this main pack. They probably lost a little bit of time. They absolutely did. They are going to come out. I doubt that they're able to hold that draft with that main pack. So that is going to give us 5 trucks in contention here. And without a caution, I don't really see that changing. It's going to take 3 guys on the Highland, I think, to make it work. So it'll be interesting when these guys think it's time to move. We still have just over 20 laps to go here. So, not a long amount, not a lot of laps left, basically, here at iRacing Superspeedway. But you don't really want to make the move to try to win the race yet because you still got 20 laps to go. So it'll be interesting to see what these guys do. Doug Milner's certainly not shy. He's trying to get that high lane working in that number 6 truck.
Yeah, I mean, you can see that back there, that is the 50 and the 07. Now, they are kind of running kind of all by themselves. You see a little bit of a few cars there, Ullery, Milliner, and then you got a couple seconds back to where Bill Edwards and Ben Izenga, so about 3 seconds between them, and then it's a long ways back to the next cars back behind them. So going to be interesting to see how this battle kind of continues on for the remainder of the race, but I just don't see these 2 trucks able to run down that front pack, and that's one of the things about them trying that slightly different strategy, Drew, is that they kind of came out in just a 2-car group.
Yeah, and we talked about it. It doesn't take much to lose the draft here. And, 3 to 4 tenths of a second could mean the difference between you being with the main pack and not being with the main pack as far as picking up that draft's concerned, it's not like they were very far off. I mean, they're not. They're about 4 seconds behind our leaders, and they're just a little slower. They're between 2 to 5 miles an hour slower around the track. That's not big, but it definitely, I mean, it adds up over time. A 47.2 for Doug Milner that last time by, a 48 flat, about 7/8 tenths of a second there between those drivers. It's about that this lap as well. So they're just losing a little bit of time to those guys out front. So if I was one of those front five, I would be perfectly content to kind of sit where I'm at, because I know at worst, as long as I don't wreck, I have a top 5 finish here.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think the front five that you see here, Himmelman, Adam Freeman, Ullery, and Milner, like you said, they just got to stay together. They know that the lap count is winding down, and as the lap count does wind down, that's when they will probably start to get a little bit racy as they close in on the back of the number 2 machine. That is Justin White just up ahead. Then back behind them, like we mentioned, there is the battle for the 6th position. That is Bill Edwards and Ben Izenga, nose to tail between them. But then looking back behind them, you have Jordan Scheffler and Stan Hausman, the number 13 and the 39, have found themselves together on the racetrack. Doug Neal there in front of them is currently being scored a lap down in his Simbox Motorsports machine. So that's kind of a look of the field right now. Now, the biggest losers in that last round of pit stops, you ask? Well, that would be probably Steven Doziak Jr. in the number 55 machine. He's kind of all by himself out there right now. He just doesn't have anyone to work with. Same thing with Chris Darling. Of course, Darling had to make that drive-through penalty after re-entering the racing surface just a little bit too early. He is over 1 lap down right now. Drew, the leaders are working lap number 28. Darling only working lap number 26 right now.
Yeah, and he is being rapidly closed in on by our lead pack. Only about half a straightaway now separates Chris Darling and our top 5. But what these top 5 are doing that's really smart, and I don't know if it's intentional or just working out that way, they picked up the number 2 truck. If they pick up this number 11, they're going to be even quicker. The more trucks you have in these packs, the higher speeds you can generate, just more energy being transferred between trucks. And you're not allowing that second group, right, of the 50 truck and Ben Ising and that 07, you're not allowing them to pick up those trucks, because that's what they needed. What they needed is these front 5 to leave those guys in the dust and then fall back to the 50 and the 07, and then they could pick them up and try to close down on them. But these leaders are able to hang on to those lap trucks and really make it work for them, as they are really closing in on Chris Darling now. The 6 and the 2 seem to be working together on the inside of the 62 potentially. Oh, wreck. Oh, they saved it. Not quite the 62. Saves it. Wow, that is an incredible save by that 62 truck. But I got to question where the number 6 was in relation to that number 62. I mean, he's right on that yellow line. He just kind of goes up the track just a little bit there, Peter, and hooks that 62.
Yeah, we'll get one more look at this one, perhaps. See if we can go maybe on board here with the number 6 machine. You can see he's down there right on that yellow line. They continue going straight, and then, just might have come off that yellow line just a little bit. And, oh, man. So that's going to break our front pack down quite considerably now, Drew, because what was looking like what was going to be a 5-car battle is now down to a 3-car battle. And how about this? New race leader up at the front of the field, Mitchell Adams, who led the majority of the first half of the race. He didn't have a great pit stop about 10 laps ago or so. He now is back up to the front of the field. He was able to get around Andrew Himmelman in the number 8 machine, who slid back into 3rd. And the 4th car in line there, that's the number 11 of Christopher Darling, who is being scored now 2 laps down officially. 2 complete laps down. So Darling would need a couple of those Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Awards if he wants to have any shot here tonight at the Craig's Clash here at iRacing Superspeedway. Big shout out to them for sponsoring tonight's race. And how about all of the series sponsors this year in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. We got Buttkicker on board. Yes, that's right. We're actually going to have the Buttkicker Challenge, where if the pole sitter decides to start at the end of the race, if the pole sitter can work their way up to the front and win the race, they get a bonus. It's going to start off at $10 at Daytona if you do that, but then each and every week it's going to grow by $10 extra. So I'm sure we'll see a couple of pole sitters this season, Drew, decide to drop to the back of the field to try and pick up that Buttkicker Challenge money. Of course, Craig Set Up Shop, we mentioned them multiple times here tonight. We got SimShots on board as a series sponsor this year. Of course, Stay Tuned Sports Podcast. Link in the description to all of these. Taz Racing Customs for all of your custom diecast needs. We got SimBox as a series sponsor this year. Just a bunch of people helping to make this series possible here on the channel, and here for the National Sim Racing Association drivers to pick up a little bit extra cash in their back pocket throughout the season. So really cool to have them. You see their logos up there in the top left-hand corner of the screen here tonight on 3 Wide TV. So really, really cool. Really do appreciate everyone in the chat here tonight, and go check out those links in the description, folks, when you have the opportunity to do so throughout the season. We also got Bet Angles on as a sponsor this year. Go check out their website. So really, really cool to see all of these different sponsors able to make this truck series what it is, including one of those cars up there. That's the number 11, of course, of Chris Darling. Of course, MaxGrafix.co, also a series sponsor of the NSRA. Of course, that is Chris Darling's own company. He's sporting his own look here tonight, as we now just have 11 more laps to go here in the Craig's Clash.
Yeah. You know, I, as somebody who enjoys whipping up a scheme every now and then, Chris and MaxGrafix as a whole put some incredible schemes together. But Peter, while you were talking about all of our fantastic sponsors, and quite a few that we have on board this season, I was doing a little bit of research, and the 8 and the 49 teammates, right? The only teammates in this front pack. It'll be interesting to see if those two work together, and they have a non-teammate sandwiched between them in that number 20 truck. So it's going to be interesting to see if those guys decide to work together, especially if the 20 tries to make a move on the 49. I would think that they would work together, but we shall see. As we're closing in on potentially our second round of pit stops, I highly doubt these guys can make the end of the race. What we saw them pit at about lap 20, yeah, I think they're going to be on pit road fairly soon, as many of those laps were run under caution. What do you think, Peter, about lap 35 to 38 in that range?
Yeah, in fact, up at the top of the screen right now, you can see the stint on how many laps they've been out there since their last pit stop. It's 16 laps, Drew, since these drivers' last stop, which puts them in the window with just 10 laps to go to make it to the end of the race from this particular point. But I think they're going to stay out for as long as they can, just in case a caution flag comes out. We almost saw one a little while ago between Colin Ullery, who Ullery has fallen all the way back, folks, all the way back to about 35 seconds off the race lead in the 7th position right now. Doug Milliner in the number 6 machine. He has caught up to the back of the number 2 machine of Justin White. White is being scored 3 laps down in his truck. Definitely not a great way to go, as the number 6 and 62 were in this lead battle not all too long ago. But I think it's all going to come down to that final pit stop, which we might see this lap. If it isn't this lap, it's going to be in the next 2 or 3 for sure, as they come out of turn number 4. And here they come on cue, led by the 49 of Mitchell Adams. This is going to be a good battle. Looks like the 20 of Freeman. He's going to go a little bit longer, Drew. Great job there by Freeman. We'll see if he got his truck down to pit road speed, though.
Yeah, it looked like a good, clean entry for everyone involved. The 20 just probably maximized it, but like you said, we'll see, right? It's kind of hard. I wish iRacing would give you a big penalty notification at the top of the screen if you're spectating these races. But you can tell by the pit stop length if they sped or not. But a good, clean entry at a track that really doesn't have a ton of markers as to know when to let off and get on your brakes coming onto pit road. That they did a fantastic job. Though it's broken up a little bit. The number 20 truck and the 11 a little quicker on their pit stops. Good job by Chris Darling. He would get a kazoo, but he screwed up a pit stop earlier that put him in this position to where he's not on the lead lap. But can the 8 and the 49 close down on these front two? Because this really could break up these drivers and make this a two-car. Well, I mean, in the case of the 20, he wouldn't be racing the 11. I think Drew Himmelman got a good enough exit right there as we're looking at our current race leaders that is Bill Edwards and Ben Izenga. These two staying out right now. It'll be interesting to see how much longer they decide to stay out. They're not really losing anything because they're going to be running together probably post pit stops. So these two just cruising, leading laps, and hoping that the rest of the field, the rest of our leaders, have problems getting on and off pit road or start racing each other and slowing each other down.
Yeah, and of course, these are two teammates, S2R teammates here tonight with the number 50 of Bill Edwards and the 07 of Ben Izenga. We saw them come down pit road together just a little while ago. I'm sure we'll see that again, but I think this will be their 17th lap or so, so I don't think they can go too much further until they absolutely have to come down onto pit road. We'll bring up that graphic so you can kind of see when they were last on pit lane and kind of look at the different strategies, but we know that they have to pit at least once more. I don't see them extending it another 6 laps here, make that 5.5 as they head down the backstretch off into the corner. So we'll see them on pit road. It's just a matter of when, but they won't have to take as much fuel, Drew. That is the good news when they do come down, but I don't expect them to come out with the lead pack. And speaking of that lead pack, here it is. Jason Freeman, Chris Darling, who's being scored 2 laps down, Andrew Himmelman and Mitchell Adams right there. Those 3 lead lap trucks separated by the 11 MaxGrafix.co machine of Chris Darling. We're coming to 4 laps ago this time by.
And I think what's interesting about the situation that we have right here, right? These are our top 3 runners with a lap truck several laps down involved in there as well. We know that high lane really can't work with even trucks. So the 11 has the potential to be the determining factor in who wins this race. Who he works with is very likely going to win this race. If he works with the 20, I think the 20 is going to win. If he works with those other 2 trucks, one of those other 2 trucks is probably going to win this race. Though that is assuming that the 50 and the 07 didn't save enough fuel to make it to the end. And Peter, we're closing in rapidly. We'll see if these guys saved enough because we only have under 4 laps to go now.
Yeah, they worked their way through turn number 1 and 2. We'll keep our eyes on this battle, but we'll also keep our eyes on the battle for third, just in case those front cars do end up running out of fuel. You can see the gap right now between Edwards, Izenga, and then this group of 3 trucks. What's happened to... Oh, yeah, Chris Darling's still in the mix. I almost lost Chris Darling there for a second, but it's going to be interesting to see when those leaders come down pit road. I think the pit road delta time here is too long for them to come out, and here they come. They're coming down pit road right now. Izenga following his teammate Bill Edwards onto pit road. We're going to have 3 laps to go at the stripe, but the big question is going to be, can Jason Freeman catch up? I think the answer is yes. He will be able to catch up to those front 2. We will ride on board. You see him catching up to the back of the number 2 machine of Justin White, who appears like he might fall another lap down. He's now 5 laps down as they run. But looks like, do we have some trucks coming off pit road? Yes. Okay, so there is. This is going to be the pass for the race lead right there, Drew. And the number 20 of Jason Freeman is up front. 3 laps to go, but here comes Himmelman and the 49 of Mitchell Adams, those 2 teammates that you mentioned a little while ago, trying to go for the race lead on the high line.
Yeah, what they're trying to do is take advantage of the little bit of chaos that's created when you lap multiple trucks at the same time, and they were trying to make that outside lane work, but unfortunately the leader gets to kind of pick, right, if where he goes as far as picking up the draft if you're not next to him, so that the number 20 just picked those trucks, and then ultimately the other 2 of our top 3 were not able to really do anything with that run. Is the 8 is certainly looking right. We now have just 2 laps to go, and you really don't necessarily want to wait till that last lap to make a move there, Peter, because if you wait that long, there could be a caution and then the whole thing's reset, and maybe you get put in a disadvantageous position quite frankly, like Mitchell Adams is being put in right now. That 49 just can't clear the number 62, and now he is way, way back. We will see. Now we have multiple lap trucks here, though, Peter, that are really going to come into play as far as working with other drivers and getting up there and determining this race win, as we are now coming at a turn 4 to take the white flag.
Yeah, white flag will be in the air, so if we can get to that white flag before any type of accidents, we won't have any green-white checker. No green-white checker. White flag is in the air. The final lap here of tonight's Craig Setup Shop Clash at iRacing Superspeedway. Jason Freeman is your race leader going through turn number 1 and 2, but here comes Himmelman on the high line. We got 3 trucks out there, Drew. It's 3 on the high line versus 2 on the low side. Himmelman, he breaks up, and just like that, he's going to be a sitting duck in that outside line. Andrew Himmelman, we missed everything there thanks to the grandstands, but Himmelman now leads over Mitchell Adams as they go off into turn number 3.
The 20 just hung out to dry there as the 13 of Jordan Schepler, like we talked about, came in to play and going with the number 49 in the 8 truck. The 49 Mitchell Adams looks to the outside. They're going to drag race to the checkered flag. Who's going to get it? I think it's Mitchell Adams. Is it?
Yeah, it is. And Chris Darling might be dead. My, oh my, folks. Mitchell Adams left it to the very last second, and he's going to get to go to victory lane. Your reigning series champion does it again here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series right here on 3 Wide TV. Look at this, Drew. This run to the finish. My, oh my, and then there's that contact afterwards, and it is on from there. Look at Chris Darling doing pirouettes in that number 11 machine. We're going to have to go on board and figure out the gyro cam for that one. That's going to be an interesting one, but let's see if we can slow down this run to the finish one more time, folks, because it is one of the closest finishes, not the closest finish here on 3 Wide TV, but one of the closest finishes here on the channel, as the 8 and the 49 machine. Look at Adams. We didn't see anything like that all night long, Drew, except right there at the end. Look at Jason Freeman trying to come in there at the end. Makes it 3 wide, makes that contact. Now we got to jump over to Chris Darling. Let's fire up that gyro cam. And here we go, folks. This is going to be quite a ride here on 3 Wide TV. What a finish to the Craig Setup Shop Clash here at the iRacing Superspeedway. There's some sky. There's some ground. Boy, what a finish that one was. And it was checkers or wreckers for a couple of those trucks. And Mitchell Adams is the one who's going to be able to take those checkers.
Or in the case of Mitchell Adams, checkers and wreckers. He both wrecked and won the race. 3 drivers basically within a half tenth of each other. That is absolutely incredible. What the 49 was just able to do, he just had a tiny gap through 3 and 4, and he managed to carry just enough momentum on that outside lane coming out of turn 4 down the front stretch to just drag race his teammate Drew Himmelman, and that's all it took. It was basically down between those two, and the 49 was about a mile an hour quicker, and that was enough to get alongside his teammate and just nose ahead at the start-finish line. Awesome job by Mitchell Adams.
Absolutely. We'll see if we can jump over into the post-race interviews. There are going to be some fun ones here tonight with Jason Freeman as well as Andrew Himmelman and Mitchell Adams. I know we've talked to them a couple of times here on 3 Wide TV, so going to be fun to dial them up. And I know Himmelman really wanted that win, and I'm sure, kind of tough there for the teammate to kind of take it away from him right there at the last second. But let's see if we can dial up tonight's third place finisher, the one lone wolf in that battle for the win, Jason Freeman. Jason Freeman, Peter Short, 3 Wide TV booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir.
Well, I'll tell you what, you were a little bit of a lone wolf there at the end of the race, but all things considered, not a bad race for you. I mean, it definitely looked like it was a lot cleaner than what we saw in the open race prior to this one.
Yeah, that was fun. I definitely didn't have any help out there. I was hoping Gracias or Harvey would get in to be able to work with them, but both of them didn't make it out of the open, so I was a lone duck out there, and I was able to sandwich myself in between those sim shot guys, and I think that was what I needed to do, because then I kind of broke up their little draft, and I was able to stay on their pit strategy. So, and then just make a move when I could. Got that run into pit road and got off there, and I should have slid up the block and dropped too. I would have blocked his run, but I contemplated it, slid up a little bit, lost Chris as my drafting partner on the bottom, and then I just got stuck in the middle there.
Yeah, it definitely looked like it just didn't quite come off for you. But hey, tell us about that final pit stop. It was the money stop here in tonight's Craig's Clash, and you did a great job getting down pit road. You really did. You left it late. You got down to pit road speed. How much practice went into that?
I didn't turn a single lap of practice before the race tonight, actually. So I just knew there were two cars there that were teammates that they were not going to let me around them when I did make a move. So if I was going to make a move to get to the lead, I was going to have to beat them on the pit road and try not to get a speeding penalty doing it.
Well, hey, that was definitely the best entrance to pit road that we saw all night long, but it's a long season ahead. And of course, you got the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast 300 upcoming at Daytona a couple weeks time. What are your thoughts to going to Daytona for 300 miles?
I'm excited for it, and excited that it'll be a full field, so be able to have my teammates back to draft with and work with. And I know Gracias and we work very well at Superspeedways together and seem to have, not gonna say we haven't figured out, but we know what we're both gonna do, and we're gonna follow each other. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to the season, and only ran part of the season here last year, and gonna try to run as much as I can this season, and hopefully we'll make a run at it.
Absolutely. Well, Jason, congratulations on your third place finish. Before we let you go, any shout outs here?
Yeah, just NSRA, Chris Darling, those guys are putting this on. Stay Tuned Sports for coming on with the sponsorship. Check out the Mason Dixon Racing Esports page. It's my little streaming thing I'm trying to start doing. Just show people how cool iRacing can really be, and try to get more people involved in it. And you guys up in the booth for putting on a good show.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for dropping by with us, Jason. Congratulations on the third place finish, and we'll see you again next week, hopefully.
Yep. Thank you. See you.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for tonight's third place finisher. Let's see if Drew can dial up Drew and interview him for second place there, Drew.
Gentlemen, so close. Drew Eisman up here in the 3-wide TV booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, man, I got you.
Well, I mean, kind of a little chaotic beginning to the race, a lull in the middle, and then a chaotic end. Just kind of walk us through your what you saw out of that windshield.
Oh yeah. I mean, I was me and Mitchell teammates. We hooked up at the very beginning, and sadly, Colin kind of got involved in some stuff. But as soon, we were coming 5 to go, and we saw Izenga and Bill Pitt. We just figured, hey, we're gonna just try it. I mean, if one of us just wins, it's a huge accomplishment for that. I mean, first race is the team like SimShots Racing. I think it's great to have one of us win.
And a 1-2 is certainly a great result. What was going through your mind coming out of 4 when you saw Mitchell just make that move on the high lane?
Well, I didn't. I figured he was going to try to make a move. I didn't know where, but I did think he was going to make a move, and which I blame nothing on him. I mean, I would have done the same thing. So I thought it was a great win by him, and I was more than excited that we both got a 1-2 first race for the team.
Yeah, and you were both of your teammates, yourself and your teammate rather, were the only 2 teammates left out of the group of 3. How are you trying to approach getting back around that 20 after that final pit stop?
I think we just tried to stay patient, and we knew that we were going to work with him until we absolutely couldn't, and we just had to make a move, try to get the win. And we were committed to work with him, pit stop, pit strategy, no matter what. And so I think we knew there was a point that we had to try to make a move for the win, and we took it.
Yeah, and this is kind of a prelude to the next few weeks, basically, at Daytona, a much longer race with a bunch more trucks. What are your thoughts going into Daytona?
Well, sadly, I won't be able to make the duels or qualifying, but I think for the Daytona 300, or the Stay Tuned Sports 300, that is, I think me, Ben Adams, Colin, and Mitchell, I think we will group up very nicely. like shown here. I mean, me, Colin, and Mitchell all worked together early in the race until Colin was taken up in something. And I think if we can just hook up, we can really do something good.
Looking forward to watching it, Drew. And before we let you go, is there anybody that you'd like to give a shout out to?
My family for letting me race. GTR. You can use code GTRSIM for 10% off on their website. Buttkicker for sponsoring the team, and GTR for sponsoring the team. You can always go like Sim Shots on Facebook. That's all I got.
Well, thanks for talking with us. Congratulations on that 1-2 finish, and we're looking forward to seeing you race at Daytona.
Yeah, thanks, man.
All right, well, folks, that's going to do it for our second place interview. Let's see if we can go talk to tonight's race winner, Mitchell Adams, in the number 49 machine. You're reigning champion here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. Mitchell, you've done it again, back in victory lane, starting the season where you left off last year. Of course, it's not a points-paying race, but all things considered, a great way to start off the 2021 campaign.
I think especially after kind of a rough off season, it was really nice to get back here and have a good run and ended up winning it. It was really a lot of fun. These trucks are great around this place and had a ton of fun. Worked with the Sim Shots racing teammates the whole race, and we just stayed up front most all race long.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't think we saw a move like you pulled there on the last lap all race long. You left it till right there at the end. Tell us what was going through your head coming to the checkered flag.
I didn't think it was going to work, but I pulled a move in a practice race I did, like very similar to that, and it worked, and I knew I had that in my pocket. I didn't think I was going to get a chance because I thought Freeman was way too close, and I didn't want to leave Andrew, but I know we had a gap, and I'm like, I'll take it too wide and get a good picture for the finish, and ended up working out really well for the 49 truck.
Well, it definitely worked out for you here tonight, picking up the win. And, we got another Superspeedway upcoming, that Stay Tuned Sports 300 at Daytona. You're looking forward to the high banks of Daytona Beach?
I am. I've been looking forward to a lot of the preseason and week one of the series for a long time. The plate tracks are tapered spacer tracks. I really enjoy them, and it's a lot of fun. And when we get to put races on like this one tonight, it's always a blast. And I always seem to run well there too, so it works out.
That is definitely going to be a fun one right here on 3Wide TV. 2 weeks' time, of course, we got the qualifying races next week. Those are going to be a lot of fun to sit around and watch. Of course, a lot of drivers are already locked in through the charter system that the NSRA Truck Series has brought to the forefront this season. But nonetheless, they should be a lot of fun, and hopefully we get to see you in those races and in the big one 2 weeks from now, Mitchell.
Thank you.
Before we let you go, any shout-outs here on 3Y TV?
I do actually have some shout-outs, and I have an essay from Sim Shots I have to read, so...
Oh, buddy.
First off, I got to thank MaxGrafix. They're on the truck for the first time, came on to sponsor us this season, so big shout-out to Chris. Of course, Buttkicker, GTR Simulator, where you can use code GTRSIM, all lowercase, for 10% off your order. And Sim Shots, of course, and they wanted me to tell you, Sim Shots is a company established in 2021 that takes excellent, quite frankly exceptional screenshots on iRacing that are incorporated into Photoshop for editing. Sim Shots has low prices and can be located on Facebook. That's all the plugging I'll do on y'all tonight.
Well, I'll tell you what, Mitchell, congratulations on picking up the win here tonight, becoming a Sim Shot spokesperson here on the 3Wide TV channel, and I'm sure we'll get to talk to you a couple of times this season. Best of luck for the 2021 A season as well. It's going to be a long one, a little bit shorter than last season, however, but nonetheless, going to be a lot of fun right here on the channel. Best of luck.
Thank you.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for tonight's race-winning interview with the number 49 machine of Mitchell Adams. But, Drew, what a crazy night here at iRacing Superspeedway. Didn't have a lot of caution flags. That first one happening right there at the beginning of the race, and the race really cleaned up. There was some more contact throughout the race, but these NSRA drivers really know how to get the job done.
Yeah, a cleaner race than I was expecting based on what I saw in practice and in the open. So a really good job by these drivers out here tonight. Chaotic ending, though. I really had no idea once those lap trucks started to get involved. I had no idea what was going to happen as far as the win was concerned. And then a bunch of last lap passes, it felt like, for the win. And ultimately, Mitchell Adams by just 0.012 seconds over his teammate Drew Hemmelman. Man, I can't wait for Daytona.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's bring up those race results right there. 13 starters here tonight. Mitchell Adams taking home the win over Andrew Himmelman. Jason Freeman coming home in third. Ben Edwards, Ben Izenga, the two teammates there for S2R, finishing fourth and fifth. Doug Milliner coming home in sixth. Colin Ullery seventh. Stan Hausman, Jordan Shepler, Chris Darling rounding out your top 10. All of those cars being one or more laps down. Doug Neal, Stephen Doziak Jr., and Justin White rounding out the 13 truck field. And got word in the chat that Garrett Gleason was on the pit box tonight for Steven Doziak. Might get fired for next week because he forgot to put fuel in his truck this week. So, Garrett, figure that out there, bud. But a tough break for them, but I'm sure we'll see them back at Daytona. Should be a lot of fun here on 3Wide TV. Drew, I'm looking forward to the season.
Yeah, a bunch of really great tracks with a bunch of really good drivers and a bunch of really good sponsors. What's not to look forward to? I think we have a bunch of qualifying races next week. Then the actual Daytona, the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast, Daytona 300 after that. And then we're off to the races, so to speak.
Yeah, that is right. And it should be really, really cool to see a lot of racing just all season long. It's going to be, in my opinion, I'm really looking forward to the season. I think it's going to be better than what we saw last season. We got all those sponsors on board. We got Taz Racing Customs coming back with the biggest mover of the race award. That is actually being shared tonight by Andrew Himmelman and Colin Ullery, both of those drivers picking up 4 spots throughout the race. We got Buttkicker jumping on board. Feel what you've been missing. That's right, Buttkicker. That is the company where they get those really cool things that give you the sound and the feeling of a race car in your chair. They're a sponsor this year, as well as the Buttkicker Challenge that we'll be highlighting all season long. MaxGrafix.co, SimShots, Simbox as well, Simbox PC. Make sure you look them up on Facebook. SimShots as well, link in the description. Brookstone Animal Hospital for sponsoring the Lucky Dog Award. Craig Setup Shop, not only sponsoring the Pole Award this season, but also sponsoring tonight's Craig Setup Shop clash here at iRacing Superspeedway. Really, really cool. Make sure you check out their website, craigssetupshop.co.uk. And of course, Stay Tuned Sports Podcast for sponsoring all season long. We also want to give a big shout out to our friends over at SimTV for the camera angles that we bring you here on the channel. But Drew, long season, a lot of races, and a lot to look forward to.
Absolutely. We have quite a few really good drivers. I'm excited to see the guys that didn't get to run full time. Guys like Jason Freeman, guys like Ben Izenga, a bunch of quick guys that weren't able to make every race. Hopefully we can see those guys go full time and really take it to Mitchell Adams and James Lorello.
That is for sure. I'm sure there'll be plenty of storylines this season. But folks, thanks for stopping by here on 3Wide TV. Make sure to drop a like on your way out here tonight, and we'll see you again, same time, same place, next week, 9 o'clock Eastern at Daytona International Speedway for more Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series action here in the NSRA. For myself, Peter Short, Drew Eisenman, and everyone else on the 3Wide TV team, have a good night, stay safe, and we shall see ya!